Okay. All right. So why do you think we study religions in human geography? Why do you think we study religions?
Because depending on the religion, it can be kind of common throughout like the areas, like throughout different like areas of the world.
Yes. What else about religion? Why do we still study about religion?
Part of culture, part of
Yes,
history.
it is a very important aspect of our culture. It is part of our cultural values, things that we care for, we care about our faith. Yes. So it's an integral part of our culture. Even if you migrate to a new place, you migrate with your religion. So by the end of next lecture, which we'll have in class, we're going to look at the major religions and where they are found, and to some extent why they are. Then we'll discuss the origins and diffusion of some of the major religions. We'll look at how religions organize space, and we'll end up next lecture by talking about conflicts, religious conflicts. Why do religions fight each other? Is it just for territory, or is it just for religious expansion, or a mixture of both? So next lecture, we will talk about, why is it not allowing me to? Okay. So next lecture, we'll talk about religious conflict. But for now, let's say a few words about religions. Here, we're going to talk about some concepts. One is universalizing religions. These are religions that are spread across the world, widespread across the world. They have followers in various parts of the world. And it constitutes 58% of all people that practice religion. So 58% of people around the world belong to universalizing religions. Then we have ethnic religions, just like we talked about folk culture. We have ethnic religions that are confined to a few places. Ethnic religions constitute 26% of people around the world. Then four more concepts we need to discuss now. One is a religious branch. A religious branch is a large and fundamental division within a religion. A typical example is the Roman Catholic branch of Christianity. It is large, it's a very large group. Some people even think that Roman Catholicism is a religion by itself. No, it is part of Christianity, but it's a very, very large group of a branch of Christianity. We also have denomination. A denomination is part of a branch. But one important thing about a denomination, it brings people of various congregations, local congregations together under one umbrella, whether it's a legal umbrella or an administrative umbrella or both. So people of various denominations can come together under one, various congregations can come together under one denomination. Let me give you, let's get a few examples of denomination. I'll just give you one. Southern Baptist is an example of a denomination. Can somebody else name a few more denominations of Christianity? Anybody? We have Southern Baptist, we have United Methodist. What are some other denominations of Christianity?
You have Pentecostals?
Yes, you have Pentecostals, you have Episcopal, you have Vineyard branch of Christianity, Vineyard churches, etc., etc. Then a congregation is a local assembly of worshipers. Normally they meet in a place, either a building or a field, but they meet in somewhere. They congregate, they gather together to worship. It depends on the type of religion. Many times it will include singing and praying. Some will include silent meditation at times, etc., etc. But the important thing about a congregation is a local assembly of people. They meet in a place, whether it's the place has a structure or just an open field, but it doesn't matter, but they meet in a place and worship. That's a congregation. A sect is a breakaway, a small group breaks away from a religion. Let's say hypothetically, all of us in the 1130 class belong to one denomination. But this denomination have some very strict rules. Men should not shave their beard, they should not cut their hair, women should not use lipstick, eye pencil, they should not pierce their ears, women should not wear pants. I say, these laws are just too intolerable. We are going to break away and form our own religious body. So that's a sect, breaking away from the major denomination because of some rules, some edicts or some tenets that are really intolerable. Then you break away and form your own group. Normally, a sect is normally small, but it is a breakaway from a major denomination. Some of the examples of denominations will include what do you call it, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witnesses. We'll touch on some of those in a short while. These are the four major religions, the biggest ones. But one thing I want to draw your attention to here is that one of them is not a universalizing religion, and that is Hinduism. Yes, Hinduism has 1.2 billion followers, but it is still an ethnic religion, clustered mainly in India and to some extent in Nepal. So Hinduism is an ethnic religion, even though it has large followers. That's the only exception. That's the only ethnic religion that has so many followers, but it is still considered an ethnic religion because most of them are clustered in India, 97% of them. Christianity is the largest religion in the world with 2.4 billion followers. That's a lot. Second is Islam, 1.9. And third is Buddhism, 507 million. All three of those are universalizing religion: Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. Hinduism is an ethnic religion, appealing to people mainly in one place, that's India. Folk religions account for another 6% of the world's population. And then you have two other smaller religions: Judaism, which is considered an ethnic religion, and Sikhism, found in northeastern India, which is considered, interestingly, a universalizing religion. Even though it just have about 20 to 30 million followers, it is still considered a universalizing religion. Judaism, as I said, is considered an ethnic religion because a good number of them are located in Israel. Then you have 16% of the world's population that do not belong to any religion. Here we have three groups. One of them call themselves free thinkers. They just think freely. They believe mainly in philosophy, philosophical thoughts, and science and technology. That's all. That's what they call. This next group is called atheists. The atheists don't believe that God exists at all. Then you have a third group known as agnostic within the 16%. They say, if God exists, show us the evidence. So all three of those belong to the unaffiliated, people not affiliated with any religion. And that's about 16% of the world's population. 5 years ago, it was 14%. It has grown 2% over the past 5 years. 16% of people around the world do not belong to any religion. Okay. On your left are Sikhs. People belong to the Sikhism faith, worshiping. Notice they sit on the floor, on a mat floor, just like how the Muslims will sit, but the religion is different. On the right is a Baha'i temple. Notice the 9-sided figure. All Baha'i temples are 9-sided figures, what we call nonagon. They are so designed 9-sided figure. It will be interesting to find out why 9-sided. I know it's part of their culture, their religious belief, but perhaps it would be interesting to find out a little bit more why 9-sided. All Baha'i temples located in every world region across the world have a building design like this, 9-sided. The map shows religions across the world. There is a little bit of color issue here. If you look at those, this color is for Christianity. Christianity is widespread in North America, South America, parts of Asia, Central and Southern and Eastern Africa, Australia and New Zealand. But this color should be the same like this. So there's an error. Christianity is dominant in Latin America. 93% of people in Latin America practice Christianity. But what do we notice here? The color is slightly darker than this. So that should not be the case. All of this here and here should have the same color, either dark like this or bright, but this is an issue which I will have to inform them if they invite me to review some chapters. I will tell them to be concerned about, to be particular about color, whatnot. Because if you look at the legend here, there is no dark brown color in this legend. So back to the important thing, Christianity here, dominant here and here, Christianity predominant here, here and here. Then here we have Hinduism, an ethnic religion, dominant in this part of the India in particular and Nepal. Then we have Islam, dominant in North Africa and Southwest Asia, and to some extent in parts of Central Asia. The Buddhism is dominant here. Again, there's a question mark here. Buddhism is also in China, although perhaps not too dominant, but the Buddhists are in China. Then they're also in Mongolia, here in the north. So these are the major ones. There is no clear specific religion in Nigeria as the same as in Ghana, multiple religions. So no clear majority. But for these other countries around the world, there is a clear majority. Any question or comment so far? As I normally say in face-to-face class, don't hesitate to ask a question or to comment on something we are discussing. So let's talk a little bit more about Christianity with the 2.4 billion followers. Where are they mainly found? Mainly in Europe and the Americas, North and South America. We saw that a few seconds ago. In Europe, Christianity is dominant. North and South America, Christianity is dominant. But there are three major branches of Christianity. Roman Catholicism accounts for 50% of all Christians. That's huge. Protestant accounts for 24%. That is where we have groups like Pentecostal, United Methodist Church, we have Southern Baptist, etc., etc. Episcopal. Then we have Eastern Orthodox, 12%. As we see here, Eastern Orthodox are mainly found in Europe, okay? Eastern Europe, and we'll talk more about Eastern Orthodox shortly. Then we have all other branches belonging to the 14%. Most of the newly created or new churches belong to that 14%. In Africa, like in Nigeria, we have a branch known as Celestial Church. We have Aladura Church in several places in West Africa. Then here we have things like branches like, what do you call it? Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, what is the other one? Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we normally call them Mormon, etc., etc. Can somebody tell us another denomination that belongs to the Protestant group? Some of the relatively old churches that belong to that Protestant branch of Christianity. Can anybody tell us an example? We know about Southern Baptists, we know about United Methodists. Are there other branches that are part of that Protestant branch of Christianity that you know of?
Like Presbyterian or?
Yes, Presbyterian is one of them, yeah. Presbyterian is one of them. I would say Lutheran is another branch within that denomination. Within that branch, it's another branch within that, another group or other denomination within that branch of Christianity. Yes, there are a large number of them. We'll take a look at the map shortly. Then the smaller branches are the newer churches, like Church of All Nations, Vineyard Church. We have more recently churches like, as I said, Latter-day Saints Church, etc., etc. All of those are part of the 14%.
I believe the Anabaptists of
Uh-huh.
Europe are the
Okay.
modern day like Amish or Mennonites.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is part of the Protestant church because it's old, it's not new. Anabaptist is old. Remember, the Amish people came here over 100 years ago, close to 200 years. So even though it's a small group, I think it is part of the Protestant church. And if you a little bit of history, the Amish had to move because they were being persecuted in Europe. So they had to move and they came here, settled initially in Pennsylvania and subsequently spread to other, migrated to other states in America. So I think it is part of the Protestant because it's not new. Most of these smaller branches are relatively new. These smaller branches are relatively new. So Anabaptists, I want to believe it's part of the Protestant branch of Christianity. Again, I question this map. This map, the title is Distribution of Christians in Europe. Yet the map includes countries in Asia. Saudi Arabia is not in Europe. Egypt is not in Europe. So I'll have to draw the attention. But let's focus on the countries in Europe. What do we see in the north and the west of Europe? What branch of Christianity is dominant in Northern Europe and Western Europe?
Northern's more Protestant, and
Exactly.
in Southern
Yeah.
it's more
Yes.
Catholic.
Thank you very much. Northern and Western Europe is mainly Protestant, and Southern Europe is mainly Catholic. Then we have Eastern Orthodox Christians dominated, predominantly found in Eastern Europe, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, etc. All of these are mainly Eastern Orthodox Christians. Then, of course, Turkey has a few Christians, but mainly Muslim. Turkey technically is in Europe, and some likely part of it is in Asia, but I think it's divided half in Europe and in Asia, but Turkey is predominantly few Christians, was mainly Muslim. The rest is Asia. It's not part of Europe. So I don't know why they made this mistake. Then let's take a look at this map about the United States. Here we see Southern Baptists in light green, dominant in the South. Then a question for you, why do we have so many Catholics in the New England or northeastern part of the United States? Why so many Catholics here? Who can tell us? A good number of the founding fathers that initially settled in that New England area were from Ireland, dominated by Roman Catholics. So normally you stay with your religion. So a good number of the founding fathers that settled here were from Ireland. So that's why we have a large number of Roman Catholic population here. What about California and Arizona? Why do we have so many Roman Catholic here, even southern Texas? Why are there so many Roman Catholic in this part of the country? That is an easy question. Why are there so many Roman Catholic in California, southern Arizona, southern Texas?
That'd be because it's more dominant in Mexico, and then they migrate up.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much. In fact, if you read American history in detail, you will find out that part of Texas and part of California were part of Mexico. We won one of them in a war and we paid for the other portion. So I think the War of 1812 or so, we won one of those. Then migrants, as you rightly said, coming from Mexico and other Spanish-speaking countries. Remember, 93% of people in Latin America are Christians. About 80% of those are Roman Catholic. So that's why we have a large number of Roman Catholic population in southern Texas, in California, and parts of Arizona and New Mexico. Okay. Any question or further comment? Then what do we see further north? We see the Protestant Christians. A large number of them, United Methodist Church, Episcopal, that is called Anglican in the rest of the world, but we call them Episcopal here. Then we have Lutheran Church. I knew a couple of New Michigan churches, Lutheran churches in Michigan. There are some in other states. Then we have mainland Protestant, this purple, all of here. We have Black Protestant. This is interesting. Black Protestant churches in the South. They are different from Southern Baptist. I know of Southern Baptist churches, mainly white, mainly black, but this Black Protestant is a different denomination. It is different from the general Southern Baptist church. For instance, when I was in Georgia, I used to attend a black church, which is part of South Baptist Church, once a month. Then I used to attend United Methodist Church twice a month because I had friends that I just cannot say no. Very good friends in Georgia those days. What else? Then we have other religions. Latter-day Saints, Mormon, what we call the Mormons here. We have some other branches of Christianity, or denominations of Christianity, I will say, within this part of the country. The Mormons, there are two groups. One of them is the big group. The other one is like a sect. Part of them are a few in Texas, a few in Arizona, but most of them are in Utah. The main group is in Utah. The breakaway group are scattered around Arizona and a few in Texas. The issue there is the main group of Mormons or Latter-day Saints are monogamous. The breakaway sect are polygamous. So I'm not going to delve into that. America is a monogamous society. I don't want to complicate things. Let's move on. This map shows non-Christian faith in America. What do we see here? Judaism, dark purple, is found in various places, but increasingly a number of Jews are in southern Florida. A number of Jews are in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, a large number of Jews. Then we see Islam found all over. About 1.2% of Americans are Muslims. This light green, including quite a number of Black or African Americans that are Muslims. Cities like Detroit, Chicago, Pennsylvania have a large number of Muslims. So all of these lights, green, depicts location of Muslims. Then we have Buddhism, mainly in the West. We should not be surprised. A large number of Asians are found in the West. So we should not be surprised to have a large number of Buddhist followers in the western part of the United States. Baha'i here and there, but not too many. But Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism are widespread across the country. The numbers are still small. Christianity is still a dominant religion in America, but those other religions are found in several places across the country. I would argue that the one that is widely spread most is Islam, second to Judaism. Any question for me or comment? I want to hear voices. You know, I like to hear voices. Okay, this is a map. It's not in your text, but I like this map. It shows the Bible Belt, the true Bible Belt of the United States. Notice it is mainly in the South. It includes Oklahoma, Texas, amongst others, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, etc. These are places where people are not only Christians, they not only practice Christianity, but also they venture out to spread Christianity around the world. Oklahoma, amongst other states, have a large number of missionaries around the world. My own church here in Claremont, Destiny Life, we have mission work in Haiti, in the Caribbean. We have mission work in Mongolia, north of China. Very recently, we have some mission work in Pakistan, a Muslim-dominated country. And we have a little bit of mission work in Uganda. So when I first arrived in Oklahoma, several people were asking me, are you from Ghana? Are you from Kenya? We have missionaries there in northern Ghana. The pastor just came back. So missionary work is something that is big in this Bible Belt. It's not just, we are practicing, a number of people are practicing Christianity in the South, these states. But that's not enough. A number of churches have mission work across the world, not only to spread Christianity, which is the main goal, but also to help the very poor. Some of them they spend time in constructing wells in some parts of the world. Some of them help kids with setting up libraries, etc., etc. When I got this job at RSC, I called a female pastor in Africa and I told her I'm relocating from Michigan to Oklahoma. So I was trying to find out how I was thinking about how I can explain to her the location of Oklahoma, because I know Oklahoma is not well known, unlike places like states like Texas or California. So as soon as I said Oklahoma, I said, oh, Oklahoma. I first heard of Oklahoma in 1975 when two missionaries from Oklahoma came to Liberia, the country next door to Sierra Leone. I said, wow. So missionary work is not new. Oklahomans, Texans, and others in this Bible Belt have been going out to several countries, especially in the developing world, to spread Christianity, to win souls, and also to help in whatever way in terms of local projects. So I was surprised. Even as of now, there is a church in the suburb of Tulsa. Pastor Hagan has linked to the biggest church in the world, which is located in Nigeria. I recall there was a time when Pastor Hagan went to Nigeria about 10 years ago for the big service, the annual service in December, which they call the Shiloh celebration. And that church in Nigeria, in the suburb of Lagos, is the biggest in the world. It can hold 50,000 worshippers. Yes, it's bigger than Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen in Houston is the biggest in the United States, can hold 30,000 worshippers. But the one altar in suburb of Lagos in Nigeria can hold 50,000. But more importantly, missionary work is not new at all in Oklahoma as in other Bible Belt states. If you go to the Northeast, yeah, there are a few Christians. Go to the Northwest, there are a few, but this area is the biggest. Okay, now let's take a look at a clip about live streaming of church services. This has grown partly because of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. So let's take a look at live streaming of churches. I hope I'm able to get there without an ad. I normally like to put an ad. Okay.
Fasten your seatbelt. Go on a wild journey.
I don't want this. I want to get directly to the service, to the clip. Rather.
'As secretary, you need to be the best you can be.
This group of women whose voice was not being heard. There's something you can do about it. Everything exploded. The movie was married to a movement.
They built their own kind of feminism, and it was powerful.
I'm not just a secretary, I'm a secretary.
"98-year-old Paul Harris and his 88-year-old wife Clara attend church faithfully every Sunday morning, even though they never leave their senior living apartment in suburban Dallas.
It saves me an awful lot of physical effort, which is very difficult for me. My legs don't work well, so it's just better for me to stay home.
Now, instead of packing his walker into their car and driving to church, Paul and Clara take a few steps to their second bedroom, and it becomes their sanctuary after a few taps on the keyboard and clicks of a mouse.
It has a place to say, who you are and how many people are watching with you, and ask if you're a member or a visitor, and then it just gets you in.
The Harrises are longtime members at Highland Park United Methodist Church in Dallas, and for the last several years, technology has made it easier for the aging couple to worship with live streaming.
We're not technology adept. No, I don't think we bothered about it. We already had a computer and knew a little bit about that.
The Harrises would much rather be singing in the choir and praying from one of these pews where they worshiped for a combined 140 years. But at this stage in their lives, streaming is the next best thing.
You miss the friends that you had there.
Mm-hmm. But you still have the feel of being at church.
That feeling of being at church has never been so real, because even though services have been beamed into homes for decades through radio and television, many were taped and edited. Live streaming is a whole new game. The services are unfiltered, including mistakes, as are all the other church announcements in business. What's making it so popular? Technology. What was once difficult and costly has become easy and inexpensive.
We're looking at the popularity of Facebook Live and Snapchat and Periscope. So churches want to be there where they can reach people.
DJ Chong is a consultant and leading expert on social media, the internet, and the church. We interviewed him from his home in California via Skype.
Back in 2007, I identified 5 churches that were doing church services online, and that grew to 105 in the span of 5 years.
And the list keeps growing. Some churches put an iPhone on a tripod. Others, like the church in Dallas, have more sophisticated equipment, cameras, computers, and consoles. And they aren't just streaming to seniors who have difficulty showing up in person. Their audience also includes people who travel, like Dell and Cammie Wynn Williams. They were vacationing with their 2 daughters in Israel one Christmas Eve and wanted to go to church. Streaming gave them the option of attending in person in Israel or worshiping live at church back home.
Our younger daughter and I decided that we would go to the 11:30 service at a Scottish church down the hill from the King David Hotel where we're staying.
We were some of the only Christians actually in the hotel at the time, and we wanted to be respectful of our environment, and so we closed ourselves off in the business office and snuck to watch our Christian service back here.
And it seems live streaming is also becoming more mainstream for a lot of people with busy lives, like Paul and Jennifer Duramo, two medical doctors who work long hours and many weekends. Logged on during a recent medical mission trip to Peru, and more frequently while working their shifts at separate hospitals in the Dallas area.
We feel very blessed that we have the opportunity to be able the church family and be a member of a church body and be a fully participating member even with the schedule that we have.
This new technology is opening a lot of doors, but church leaders are grappling with some issues as they try to duplicate the worship experience online. For example, how do you handle communion? And what do you say to someone who wants to join the church but has no intention of showing up in person? These are just a few of the hurdles Reverend Paul Rasmussen, senior minister at Highland Park United Methodist Church, has faced from the more traditional thinking church leaders and parishioners who have been slow to fully embrace this new way to worship.
Communion, where we're going to participate in the body and blood, and the liturgical act of consecrating elements, wine or juice, and then sharing those physically. How do you do that with somebody that's watching with you online from Seattle or Austin? We really haven't solved that problem yet.
He has floated the idea of self-service communion, but ran into heavy criticism from those who fear it would violate the integrity of the sacrament. There are also serious questions about church membership. When people seek to join, is to support the church with their prayers, gifts, service, and presence.
How do you honor your presence and even your service, really, if you're... What does that mean? When we came up with those standards, we were not ever anticipating the day where people would be participating with us with their presence behind a computer terminal.
The benefits outweigh the challenges. At a time when statistics show church attendance shrinking, ministers see this technology as a way to not only better serve their members, but also reach a new and wider audience. People from all over the world are now able to attend the Church of England by live streaming because of a one-year project with Twitter UK. Officials say hundreds show up every week. One Sunday, there was a huge spike in traffic with 3,000 people participating across 3 worship services. And those all over the world are able to engage in these virtual services in meaningful ways. It's not just a passive experience. Both in the U.S. and across the pond, church leaders are finding creative ways to get online members more connected.
Churches that do online services will have a chat room on the side or note-taking functions. There's even one church in South Carolina that will allow you to light a virtual candle by clicking on a button to make the worship experience more interactive and participatory.
This new technology might break away from. Pastor Rasmussen says the early data is encouraging.
People can engage in dialogue and real-time discussion of the sermon far easier online than they can even in-house.
Parishioners can then immediately share what inspires them with friends on social media, creating a ripple effect far beyond the actual service. Like anything new, there are growing pains, and live streaming church for 4 walls and in-person fellowship, at least for now. It is, however, filling a void in more ways than one for parishioners who are unable to attend church in person.
Long term, we'd like to be able to go to church and be active in as many small groups as possible. And I think for right now, at least, in the last 3 years, just being able to stream online, to participate online, has given us a place in the church, but
that we can grow from.
Yeah.
And for seniors like the Harrises, it's a lifeline to the spiritual enrichment treasured for decades.
Streaming by far beats nothing. You know, not going at all, not having anything, and I can sit here and stay with my church.
For Religion and Ethics, I'm Dan Lothian in Dallas.
Okay. Any comment? Okay, question for you. Do you think live streaming, the benefits of live streaming outweigh the disadvantages?
It's not really the same.
Yeah.
You know, I try to catch a local minister every Sunday. The benefit of live streaming is I can watch it whenever I want to, but the fellowship isn't there.
Yeah, some things are missing. Yeah, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, I should say, because some things are missing. The physical presence in the church is missing. Communion and other things are missing. Yeah. But it's like half a loaf of bread is better than none. Okay, let's talk about Buddhism briefly. Buddhism is a universalizing religion. It has a little over half a billion followers, 500 million. There are three major branches. You have the Mahayana, mainly found in Eastern Asia, accounting for 56% of all Buddhists. The Theravada, found mainly in Southeastern Asia, places like Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. And the smaller group, the Vajrayana, are found mainly in Tibet, which is Western China, and Mongolia, which is a country just north of China. In fact, my church here, we have missionary work in Mongolia. So technically, we are trying to convert some of the Buddhists and non-worshippers to Christianity. So a better look is to take a look at the map. So this is where the Mahayana branch is dominant, 56% of all Buddhists, China, the Koreas, and Japan. Then you have the 38%, the Theravada, mainly in Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Laos, etc., Vietnam. Then you have the smaller group, the Vajrayana, just 6% of Buddhists in Tibet, which is Western China, and Mongolia, a country by itself just north of China. A little bit about Islam. Islam has two major branches. Sunni Muslims, the most dominant branch, accounting for 88% of all Muslims. Most of the Muslims in North Africa and Southwest Asia, which we normally call Middle East, are Sunnis. And then we have the minority group, the Shiite branch of Muslim accounts for only 12% of Muslims. A good number of them are found in Iran and Iraq. Then we have some of them in Oman, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan. Oman, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan, all three of those countries are relatively small in population. So Iran and Iraq are the big ones that have a reasonable number of Shiite Muslim followers. So Sunnis are the biggest. Saudi Arabia, amongst other countries, is mainly Sunnis. So remember, the major group is Sunnis, 88%. The minority branch is Shiite, accounting for only 12%. So this is a cartogram map. It shows the regions, I should say, regions, I should say, that have large number of Muslim followers and smaller ones. The biggest one is this Pakistan, India, Bangladesh bloc, where they have over 100 million Muslims. India has about 18% of India's population are Muslims. Pakistan about 93 or so. Bangladesh about 90, 95 range. So when you put these three countries, they account for over 100 million Muslims. The same for Indonesia. About 95% of people in Indonesia are Muslims. So, and the population of Indonesia is close to 200 million. So it's over 100 million Muslims here. Then you have those that are between 50 and 99 million Muslims. It includes Nigeria, Iran, Turkey, etc. Then those that are below 50 million, a number of African countries, most of the Central Asian countries, and those that have less than 1 million, not much represented here. Okay. Comment? Questions? Unlike Christianity, where we have clear-cut denominations, the two branches of Islam, Sunni and Shiite, they do not have branch denominations as such. They have different ideology, different theological ideology, if I can put it that way. I don't want to use the word philosophy because this is religious, but different ideology, different theological ideology. Not like Christianity where we have denominations. For them, it's ideology, theological ideology. So amongst the Sunnis, we have Hanafi, which is found mainly in Central Asia, those 10 countries, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, etc. You have Anbali, which is found mainly in Saudi Arabia. Then you have Maliki, which is dominant in North Africa. Then you have Ibadi, which is found in some of these countries, including Kuwait. Then, of course, you have Shafi'i, mainly found in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and parts of Somalia. Then for the Shiites, one of the biggest one is the one in Iran, that is the Jafari. And then you have the Zedi, and you have the Ismaili. Ismaili is mainly found in this part of the world. So these are theological ideologies. So the Sunni branch of Islam, has at least 4 major ideologies. And the Shiite also, the Shiite branch of Islam has about 4 ideologies. Ethnic religions are small normally. The only exception is Hinduism, which is large, but most of the followers are clustered in India. So all the ethnic religions are small in numbers, but people are clustered in 1 or 2 places. They normally have a collective cultural attribute. We can call them, and they have shared history, shared language, and destiny. So it's a group, just like folk culture. It's a group of people that have been together for a while, and they have those commonalities: history, language, and perhaps they've endured some conflict or war or whatever, discrimination, whatever, but they are together. I've already talked about Hinduism being the largest. Most of the Hindus are in India and Nepal. Then we also have indigenous religions, primal indigenous religions. Let's take a look at the map. Some countries have a large number of people that belong to those primal ethnic religions. For instance, Vietnam, 44% of Vietnamese practice indigenous ethnic religions, primal ones. Then a third of people in Laos, 30%, practice it. For the others, relatively small number. Taiwan also is large, 44. Taiwan, Vietnam, and Laos, large number of people in those places practice indigenous ethnic religions. Then in China, we have a combination of traditions known as syncretic. They can combine Confucianism and Taoism, and then they can practice it. Confucianism, some people argue that is it really a religion or is a mode of life? Because the founder Confucius was a philosopher who underscored issues like respect elders, respect authorities, love your fellow man, and then work hard for your country and for yourself. But nevertheless, it is still classified as a form of religion. And when they mix it with Taoism, Confucianism, Zoroastrianism, etc., they can practice what is known as syncretic, combining various traditions. In Africa, there are a few folk religions, what is called animism. People worship natural objects that they believe have spirits and also have consciousness, conscious life. Notice there are about 35 million people in Africa. Of a region with about 1 billion people, only 35 million currently practice these folk religions, mainly in very, very remote places in Africa. But it is still there. The common ones are worshiping in forests, worship lakes, some rivers are considered sacred, some trees are considered sacred, etc., etc. What do you observe here? In 1900, some of these African countries, over 70% of their population were practicing folk religions. By 2010, Very few have up to about 10%. There were two major transformations. What were the two major transformations that led to significant decline in folk worship from the year 1900 to the year 2010? What do you think were the two major things that occurred that led to that sharp decline in folk religions in Africa? Who can tell us one? Hello? My question again was, why did traditional folk religion decline sharply in Africa between 1900 and 2010? Why was there a sharp drop in folk religious practices in Africa?
Is it because some other countries imperialized South African countries?
Well, one aspect of the imperialism could be mentioned. Is part of it. Yes, a good number of them, colonialism, they grab Africa, divide it like how you can divide the birthday cake, and they rule. And one aspect, what was one of the things that the British and the French in particular took to Africa during the imperial era? What was one of the things they spread in Africa? Christianity. Missionaries came, they spread Christianity. Some of these political whatnot came, they spread Christianity. So the spread of Christianity and Islam led to sharp drop in folk religious practices, traditional religion practices in Africa. Remember, if you're a Christian, you're a Christian. You cannot practice Christianity and still hold on to your folk cultures. The same for Islam. If you're a Muslim, you're a Muslim. You cannot practice Islam and then hold on to folk religion. So the spread of Christianity and also the spread of Islam led to sharp decline over a century, considerable drop in the number of people that still do folk cultural practices, folk religious practices in Africa. They embrace Christianity thanks to missionary work, and even some of this colonial enterprise, part of their imperial whatnot was to spread Christianity. They consider the folk religions backward and heathen. They want to civilize the people. And a number of people were receptive. They accepted Christianity, and a good number also accepted Islam due to Islamic missionaries going to Africa. So that's why it dropped sharply from what it was in 1900, where in some countries over 70% of people were practicing folk religions, to 2010, where very few countries have 10% or more. We've already talked about Hinduism. What I want to explain in this slide is that for the Hindu faith, you don't have one holy book. We have several books. Christianity, we have the Bible. Islam, they have the Quran. Judaism, they have the Torah. In Hinduism, you choose your path of spirituality, so you can read whatever book you want to. You have this path of knowledge, you have the path of renunciation, you have the path of devotion, and path of action. You choose your way. And unlike Christianity and Islam, and I would also say Judaism, where we worship one God, in Hinduism, they have various gods and goddesses. So people they worship a particular god or a goddess. For instance, Vishnu is the preserver god. Shaivism is part of what is done by Shiva. Shiva is a goddess, and Shiva is extreme. Shiva can be nice and supportive, protector god, but Shiva can also be a god of justice that can inflict harm on people that are sinful. Then Brahma is the creator god. So it's a polytheistic religion, several gods and goddesses in Hinduism. And people in India and other Hindus decide which of those god or goddess to worship. I consider it a little bit liberal because you don't have one holy book, you have several books, and you choose your own path to spirituality. But you may recall, Hindus don't eat beef. That's their food taboo. They don't eat beef, the flesh of a cow, because cow is considered a sacred animal in Hindu faith. These are other religions, mainly clustered in one country, a few in one or two countries. We see the Sikh religion in northeastern India, Juche in North Korea, Spiritism in Brazil, etc., etc. If you take a look at the map here, you see where these various religions have. And Spiritism, they believe in more of spirits. Even some of the dead spirits are still considered living spirits. They are around, they live in people, etc. Judaism, of course, is ethnic, found in in Israel, and to a reasonable extent in America. About 40% of the Jews are currently residing in Israel. About 40% of them are here in America, and the remaining 20% can be found in Europe and a few other places. So Judaism is big in Islam and also, Judaism is big in Israel, I should say, and also here in the United States. But Judaism is still considered an ethnic religion. Any question for me or comment? Most of these religions have few followers, perhaps less than 100 million followers for each of these religions. One interesting thing about Buddhism, which I should share with the class, is the only universalizing religion that can allow you to hold on to your ethnic religion. So if you're a Buddhist, you can still hold on to your Taoism or your Confucianism whilst you still practice your Buddhism faith. Unlike Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, or Baha'i faith, it is exclusive. If you're a Christian, period, you cannot practice any other religion. If you're a Muslim, likewise. But for Buddhism, it's the only religion where you can practice your Buddhism and still hold. Buddhism, of course, is a universalizing religion. You can practice it, but you can still hold on to your local ethnic religion, whether it's Taoism or Confucianism or any other one. These are the Baha'i followers where they are found. Almost every world region has Baha'i temple. A large number of Baha'i followers. When I say large, it's a relative term in India and in United States, because all the Baha'i followers put together around the world, I don't think it's more than 40 million. So they are small in number. The other interesting thing about the Baha'i faith is they accept everybody. Anybody from any faith can enter a Baha'i temple and sit there and meditate. They're not going to question you. So I don't know why, but that's their own approach. Whatever faith, whether you belong to any faith or you don't belong to any, you're not affiliated with any religion, you can enter any Baha'i temple in the world and you're welcome. They're not going to force you to convert, but you're welcome. You can sit there and observe them or whatever. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This is where the site of where Christ resurrected from. And this place used to be a large number of tourists used to go to this church before the COVID period. It was really huge. Millions of people going to Israel visited this church where the Holy Sepulchre is in Jerusalem. It was a large tourist attraction before COVID-19 came in. Okay. Islam has 5 pillars, central or core tenets or core beliefs of the Islamic faith. One of them is I believe that there is no other God worth to be worshipped but one God, which they call Allah. And that is part of what is known as Shahada, the recitation. There is no other deity worth worshipping except the one God, which they call Allah. Then you have the Salat. They pray 5 times a day. And when they pray, they face Makkah, which is in the east. Because Muhammad, the prophet that started Islam, started the religion in Makkah. They pray 5 times a day. Typically, the first prayer is about 5:45 a.m. Second prayer is about midday. Third prayer is 2 in the afternoon. Fourth prayer, I think, is 4 in the afternoon. And the fifth prayer is about 7:45 in the evening. As a Muslim, you must offer 5 prayers a day. In some countries, in some places, you are allowed to accumulate the prayers. If you're at work, you cannot pray at 12 and at 2. You will accumulate your 12 and 2 o'clock prayer and pray all 3 of them at 4. Your 4 o'clock, 12 and 2 prayers can be prayed. In some parts of the Middle East, no way. They will give you that 15-minute break at work for you to pray on time. So that's the Salat, is the praying 5 times a day. Then you have the charity, giving alms to the poor in particular, is called zakat. Whether it's cash or kind, they can give you cash occasionally, but they give mainly gifts like food, clothing, etc. that the poor people need. They might take him to the head of the mosque, the imam, on Friday where they have the biggest prayer, which is called the Juma prayers, Friday prayers. Some of the poor will come to the entrance of the mosque and people, worshippers coming in will give them gifts. It's a mixture, not just cash, not just money, but they can give them food, they can give them clothing and other things. They say it's part of spiritual edification, spiritual growth, to give alms to the poor. Then you have the Ramadan, the son of Ramadan, which is a fasting period. Just like Judaism, Islam operates on the lunar calendar. They look at the phases of the moon. So their month is 28 days, occasionally 29 days. So they will fast through that 28 or 29 days period, and they will try to do holy things and desist from doing anything that is sinful during that for 28 days period. And then they will end it with a very, very big feast. The fasting starts about 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and ends at dawn, about 7:15 in the evening. Once that 28 days prayers ends, they're going to organize a very big feast. They will kill cow, goats, other livestock, etc., and celebrate. Doing that, everybody that is 10 years, no, 10 or 12 years and above should fast, except if you have ulcer. If you have ulcer, you are not required to fast. But you should give some money and some foodstuff to those that are fasting so that they will fast on your behalf. But you still join them in prayers. But you should not fast if you have ulcer or any other medical problem that can aggravate your illness if you fast. But otherwise, if you are 12 years and above, you should fast. Some of the senior clerics, they fast longer than the 80s. Some of them fast for 40 days. They fast before and then they continue until the 28 day or 29 day period ends. The last core pillars is known as the Hajj, a pilgrimage to Makkah. A pilgrimage is a holy visit, a trip to religious places. In this case, Makkah, and they go to Makkah, Medina, and Jeddah. We'll talk more about the Hajj next lecture. So Makkah, the Hajj is, you should go to Makkah, or pilgrimage to Makkah at least once in your lifetime, provided you have the money. It's the average price about $3,500, and that's a lot of money for people in developing countries. Then you should be physically fit. If you are disabled, you can run into trouble there, because once they touch the Kaaba, the holy shrine, they have to run. And if you fall, they trampede upon you. People die every year there. So if you are disabled, they might advise you not to go, because you might endanger your life, especially during that running process where millions of people run. So, but otherwise, you're encouraged to go. In some developing countries, some developing countries that have large Muslim population, governments subsidize, provide some money. Some will provide air ticket, then you can take care of your own lodging and the like. What's the average price, as I said, is about $3,500. That's a lot of money in some developing countries where people earn $1 a day. Okay, any question about the 5 pillars of Islam? I know you are not familiar with these, but any question or comment? This is the largest mosque in Medina. The Prophet Muhammad started his religion in Makkah. He was persecuted and he had to flee Makkah and went to Medina. He was received well in Medina, spread the religion, and after some time went back to Makkah. This is the large mosque there in Medina. This is the largest mosque in the world in Makkah, the Masjid al-Haram Mosque. This is the Kaaba, this holy shrine. The holy stone is in this engraved casing. This stone, they say there are several stories about it. There are some stones there, they say it was given to Ishmael by Abraham or whatever, but they are there. And when they go to Makkah, this was a pilgrimage. These are all people, millions of people. You have to touch this stone, the surface. You touch this shrine and whatnot, and you run. When you touch it, you should not turn back and look at it. So normally you will keep it, you have a worshiping whatnot, and after that, by groups they will touch it and then they run. And you should not turn back and look. I don't know why, but that's what we've been told. When you go on the pilgrimage to Makkah, you return, you have a new religious title. If you're a woman, your new title is Hajjah. If you're a man, your new title is Al-Hajj. So whenever you go on a pilgrimage, you return, you have a new title added to your name. So they will have to address you Hajjah Cynthia Smith, Hajjah Alicia Cole, Alhaji Mohammed Alhaji and so, Alhaji Duncan Collins or whatever. So that's it for I think we will, let me see, pick it up from here next lecture. Again, I'm sorry about the glitch at the start of class. I have one computer that is not operating too well. The other one is doing reasonably well. And the lecture takes a while for it to be transformed by Zoom to MP4. So that normally takes about 20 minutes, and the period of interval between one class and the next was just normally is 15 minutes. So I'm sorry about that loss of time. We'll get back to class, in-person class on Tuesday. The snow and the ice all gone. Now the side roads should be cleaned, and that will be done hopefully shortly. Do you have any question for me? Any specific question? If there is none, stay warm and stay safe. Complete your exams tomorrow and hopefully email the class so that you can check your grades. We'll continue on religion from diffusion of Buddhism on Tuesday, the 23rd in class. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Have a nice weekend. See you on Tuesday. Bye.
When you're a victim, it's always somebody else's fault. When you're a victim,